principles.
Yeah.
It's all masonry done.
Oh, yeah.
Here's this fucking camel. Here's this rock that's you that's fucked up. Break on it, chisel on it.
Right.
Don't be horny all the time. Learn how to control your dick and you'll get your first degree.
Right. Right. Control those passions, right?
Yeah, versus, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, even passions, you know what I'm saying, can be like, you know, like it being irresponsible, you know what I'm saying? Or like being too anxious. It's all types of fucked up stuff. So it's just like, man,
right.
It's the same thing with preaching. Don't fornicate. Why shouldn't you fornicate? Because if you keep doing it, your dick will fall off. You know what I'm saying? All these CDs. It's literally the same thing. You know what I'm saying? But it's in a
different perspective, different concept. You know.
And some of those preachers know. Some of these preachers know the secret.
Right.
Some of these preachers actually figure it out. Like I remember, like even my father's a pastor. My granddaddy was a pastor.
Right.
And when I talked to my daddy when I first kind of got that little whiff of something ain't right, I was like, Dad, you know, how can you find the whole Psalms 23 in Egypt in the pyramids?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get up. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, bro, you can literally quote certain stories out of the Book of Psalms in certain hieroglyphics verbatim.
Right.
Like the story of the lamb with the guy carrying the lamb going back to get the one out of the 99.
Yeah.
That's in Egypt.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I was like, how do you explain it? He said something real slick. He was like, son, I'm gonna tell you, oral tradition is one of the most powerful things that black people or even people have ever used over generations.
True indeed.
Now, the circumstances of which that tradition is passed may change, but the story would never change.
Never changes.
He was like, son, if you want to just read a look up something, I tell you what started the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Now, and keep in mind, this is my dad, and he's Baptist, fire and hell, brimstone.
Right.
Having this little intimate conversation. He was like, hey, look, it's been here.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just give one to just definitely start there, but it's been here.
Right.
And like I said, I was too green behind the ears to like really peep that. And he was like, son, nothing is new under the sun.
True indeed. Nothing. That's true.
So he was like, you know, and that's when I kind of just started my own little journey. Then that's when I found like, I think I need to be a Mason.
Right.
Let's see what these folks, let's see what's going on. But then, you know, like most people, get caught up in the social club and know esotericism, and you might find one or two, but it's like overlooked. Yeah.
You know. Oh yeah. But it's all, you know, it all goes with the journey. You know what I'm saying, brother? And you still find your way, but along the way you start to see a lot of things that bring you more light. You know, so it's, you know, it's all working in the process that as it should. You know, it's a good thing. That's a good thing, man. That's a nice story too, bro, about your father, man, because he really knows it.
Like masonry in my family, it skipped my dad. My grandfather was a Mason. My great grandfather, my great great grandfather. The lodge that I'm in is named after my great great grandfather.
That's deep, bro. That's good, man.
Yeah, so it's like it was always traces of figure it out, son.
Right.
There, you know.
Right. Yeah. That's straight, man. Looks like Magileo is on.
Okay.
Hey,
I've been talking to this brother for a little minute. When I say a little minute, like I've been following him and watching his page. You know, he had the free YouTube channel up, right?
Right.
He done said his name 1,000 times. I heard you say it just now, and guess what, bro? I'm still gonna tear that John up.
No.
So it's Magileo.
Magileo. Yeah.
Magileo.
Yeah.
Hey, bro. All due respect, there don't mean no harm by this. Can I just call you Magic Fool?
I don't know.
Can I just call you Magic, bro?
Right. Call him Magic. Call him Magic.
Yeah, all right. We got that. Yeah. All right, bro, Magic. I got you.
Yeah, because it looks like he's muted right now. Yeah. Ain't nobody else on yet, but looks like he's muted.
Yeah, God just posted
Oh,
You can just say Nash for short, you heard?
All right, yeah, appreciate that, bro. Cause I feel bad about it. I'm like, damn, can't my
No, not Magic. You can just say Madge for
Madge.
short, like M-A-J. Like, hey,
Hey,
Madge.
Yeah, that's
cool,
cool.
cool, cool.
That's cool. Yeah, but I'm gonna give him about between 2 to 5 more minutes. See if anyone else comes back on, man. And
Yeah, Brother
yeah.
Prince said he's gonna come on
Okay, cool.
for like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Give it a little time then. Then I'll get into it. And should be able to looks like I'm able to record it, so anyone that want to check it out later or something, I'll set up a link for it later.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, that'll work. And brother, let me get your name, brother.
J Johnson, Jaye.
Jay Johnson, okay. Out of Memphis.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mason City of America.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have that Scottish Rite pyramid out there, I heard.
Oh yeah, we got a big ass Scottish Rite temple like by my house. Like I stay like close to downtown. So a lot of like the mainstream and like mainstream shit is like kind of centered around there and like out east of Memphis. But yeah, dog, like one thing you'll see down here, bro, you'll see a lot of lodges like their own buildings. You know what I'm saying? I've been to some states where people still meet old school, meet at a church, meet at a building or something.
Oh yeah.
But down here, like, huh? But down here, like, it's a lot of buildings. It's cool. The Scottish Rite headquarters is here for the southern jurisdiction.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said I heard they have like a 32 level pyramid out there somewhere.
Downtown.
I think they say where the Grizzlies practice or something like that.
Yeah, downtown. It used to be where the Grizzlies play and practice, but like they got the FedEx Forum. But see, like, fun fact about the pyramid, and show you how racist Memphis used to be. My granddad, Wardell Johnson, him, Ralph Payne, and Ralph Lawson, all them Masons, they designed the pyramid, bro.
What?
I bullshit you not. I got the original sketches before they broke ground.
What?
All of that, like.
Nice.
And the thing with that is, at the top, back in the day, at the very top, there was a crystal skull. I swear to God, back in the day, like it was at the very top of the capstone.
Yeah.
Like everybody you couldn't get in there. Like it was only privy to like few people. But there was a crystal skull, and when the public found out about it, they moved it. Like we had a statue. Matter of fact, the pyramid was guarded in the front. It used to be a statue of Ramses.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if you go to the Memphis Zoo and it's like right by the Tiger Wall, you'll see a lot of Masonic stuff.
Really?
Like we got a lot of the original. When I say original, I mean like ancient mounds. Like I said, Memphis is like what they would call the Mississippian Indians before they started giving titles and all that. Choctaw and Chucalissa and all that bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Like they would call us Mississippi Indians, and all up and down the Mississippi, you'll find these dirt mounds, like pyramids, like straight up, like they're still here. Like yeah, bro. Like I mean, it's something to see when you come here.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are plenty of them. I mean, like perfect pyramid shape, like still been in the dirt, like since they were made.
Yeah. So
yeah, bro.
So that pyramid downtown that had the crystal skull, they moved the skull, or they moved the whole.
They moved the skull and they moved the statue.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
I heard that's supposed to be like a replica of Memphis, Egypt, probably, right? Like Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, like if I try not to go down that Moorish rabbit hole or shit. But you know, actually Memphis, Tennessee is really South Egypt, and Chicago is North Egypt.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I mean it like in an architectural way, like.
See, the architectural way is I mean a mirror image. I mean like where the city used to sit before, where the city sits before they started annexing all of these smaller towns to Memphis. Like Memphis was literally like the area of downtown right by the river.
Oh, okay.
Like
exactly, because that river that y'all have over there, they say it's like, you know, supposed to be a replica of the Nile. You know, not really the Nile, but.
Yeah.
It's when you look at the river system, all of the smaller rivers up north, even going up to Canada, all merge into the Mississippi. And then back, you know, older days, a lot of the travel, a lot of the transport and commerce was going off Mississippi. That's why New Orleans was like that capital city, like they wanted to conquer.
Yeah.
Because like that was like the mouth of the trade. Like everything, even to this day, most shit that gets transported has to stop through Memphis. Like at some point. So like I can see, you know, the ancients who lived here at that time, you know, utilizing the river going up and down.
Right.
And like even if you go to like a lot of the museums here, like and you study like the tribe here in Memphis was called the Chuckalisa. And if you go there, their museum, you'll see the wall with all their artifacts, bro. Straight, and I'm not exaggerating this, bro. Like it's literally engraved, like lines and perpendiculars, and horizontals.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, bro. Like it's.
Oh, it's got a strong tradition.
It's wild to see, like.
And that's all in Memphis, huh? That's deep.
All in Memphis, bro. Like shit, it's deep down here. Like even just the culture here, like it's like, you know, you're an enlightened one, so it's just like you can see the traces of like our ancient self here.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, brothers, I think I'm gonna get started on the talk, the presentation, just to get a little bit in, because Brother Jay's gonna have to head out. He's going to the church today, so I'm gonna get started now, and then I got it recorded for anybody that's gonna come up later. But I'm gonna get started on the Masonic Apron and the symbolism. And I'm gonna step out the way for a minute and put up a few props and stuff so that we can see how everything's looking.
All right, cool.
If I'm not mistaken, or I could be wrong, bro, badge. Wasn't like the badge like a guard of the Holy of Holies of the phallus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the 5-corner badge.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, brothers. Yeah, definitely. Can you see this
Yes, sir.
image up here? Pretty good? Okay. All right, so what is the significance of the Masonic Apron? The Masonic Apron is unquestionably one of the most valuable symbols associated with our speculative order. And when it is first worn as an entered apprentice, it is of pure white lambskin. I just want to show you this. I have my apron here that I wanted to show for brothers that may not have it in this form or whatever. but that's the white lambskin. Then you have the 2 cords right here. So it's made of, pure white lambskin, an emblem of innocence, the purity which we usually associate with the lamb or a newborn child. In the first degree, it is worn with the flap raised. This is just symbolizing the flap being raised. And this is like when it's a 5-corner badge. 3, 4, 5. Like you were talking about earlier, Jay, with the 5-corner badge. And this is indicating the five senses by means of which we enter into relations with the physical world around us. And it also is constituting our 5 points of fellowship with the material world. So it's indicating also by the triangular portion above, you got 3 sides. You got your 3 sides in conjunction with the 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, of the lower portion of the apron, the quadrangular portion below. That's symbolizing the triangular portion above and the quadrangular portion below. That's man's nature and is a combination of the soul and the body. The 3-sided emblem at the top, added to the 4-sided emblem on the bottom beneath it, it also makes 7, the number 7, the perfect number, as it's declared in the words of ancient Hebrew doctrine, which is closely related with Freemasonry, the Kabbalah. It says that God blessed and loved the number 7 more than all things under his throne, by which it is meant that man, the sevenfold being, is the most cherished of all the Creator's works. For the same reason, a Masonic lodge has 7 ceremonial officers, 3 principal and 4 subordinate. And for a lodge to be perfect, it requires the presence of 7 officers, 3 principal and 4 subordinate. And a lodge, thereby signifying in the lodge that the individual man, this is signifying the individual man, in virtue of his 7-fold constitution, in himself constitutes the perfect lodge, if he knows himself and analyzes his own nature. While 5 can hold a lodge, a man can also be a man and live his life as a 5-fold being. Yet he must always remember that this is but a stage of growth. It's a place of incompleteness, and that he must still ultimately prepare and add 2 more members or principles or powers to his lodge in order to have a perfect lodge. So now I'd like to go into when the aprons actually changed. The aprons had a certain design in around like 1782. They had a certain design, and they changed at the changing of the actual unification of the 2 premier Grand Lodges in England in 1813. Now this change the change in the aprons didn't all take place in that same year. Over time they ended up changing. This is an old style of old apron. Hope y'all can see that. And you might know that that's like a picture of an old apron in 1782 of George Washington's apron. And then this is an image of an apron in 1813. And as you can see, they changed the form of it, you know. And then they have in here they decorated it with the symbols and emblems of their degrees, of their other degrees, or the trestle board work on their aprons. They had a lot more stuff going on as far as symbolizing their degrees and their levels on their aprons, which that changed with the unification, according to the UGLE, forming the 3 degrees as far as the not Prince Hall, but the Entered Apprentice and the Fellowcraft and the Master Mason. So this change took place, and then from time immemorial, you know, it's been like this. But with the EA apron, we starting with the EA apron, as we have seen earlier with these designs, the EA apron became the lambskin apron, which is a symbol of innocence and purity, as we're told in the Blue Book. It also consists of 3 parts: a square of lambskin and a triangle of lambskin. The square and then the triangle up top. And then it also, the 3 parts of the square, the triangle, and then you have the chords. As discussed earlier, the flap or the triangle was worn with the point up, so we have 3 sides. We have a 3-sided shape attached to 4 sides of a square. The sum of the sides is 7, which as we are told in the extended explanation of the Master Mason's apron, was a 7. That 7 brethren present makes a perfect lodge, but it's a lot more than that. It's more so the number 7 is a recurring theme within the craft. Let me just put that back up again. 1 second. So, put this back up. So that number 7 is a recurring theme within the craft. You have the 3 up top, and you have the 4 sides on the bottom. These 7 represent the 7-fold constitution of man's nature, like I said earlier. This is something we are all aware of, but not really. You know, we all know that we have a body, a soul, and a spirit. This is the basic idea that St. Paul brings in Christianity. These ideas that can be found in some of the teachings from the ancient mystery schools of old, and some sects of Christianity still are aware of some of these concepts. um, once considered part of mainstream teachings, mainstream Christian teachings, it has been overshadowed by damnation and salvation of one soul. But the 7 is representing the body, the vitality, the astral body, the animal soul, the human soul, the spiritual soul, and lastly, the spirit, or atma. The body, spiritual soul, and spirit being part of the teachings. This represents the Trinity. It's representing the Trinity. So you have the body, spiritual soul, and spirit, representing the Trinity. The Atma is the spirit. This is the highest power of intellect, that which discerns and judges is the mind. They form the Trinity that was allegorized in Christianity as the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, making them divine. It's the divine triangle, the real man. The four sides below are representing our passions and desires, our life principle, the astral body and the physical body. Or in Kabbalah it would be called the kingdom. Or Malkuth. We'll get into some of that a little later, but basically you're looking at the passions and desires, life principles, astral body, and the physical body down below, making a square of matter, or the body. These are the imperfections of man that a Mason must overcome on his journey to enlightenment. The triangle, as we have suggested above, has been used in ancient mystery systems throughout the world to signify and denote the spirit, or that which is not obvious to the eye, to the human eye. A triangle has been known to represent fire. Looking at the religion of Hinduism, they have Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, Shiva, the destroyer. Again, the Trinity. Just like similar to Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. You have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Shiva is represented by a triangle and signifies the flame which rises upwards from the funeral pyre. This flame is in essence, points to heaven, pointing up. And in Egypt is famous for their pyramids, which we were talking about earlier. And yes, they're in the shape of a triangle. These places are all known, they're known to be tombs for the dead, but also it is said that rituals took place there for spiritual devotion. Even if they are in academia suggested to be tombs, then the burial chamber was said to have been sealed, have a sealed door or a spirit door that allowed the dead pharaoh to transcend to the next life. Again, confirming that the idea that the triangle represents the spirit. Even in Christianity, a spire is used on the tops of most churches and cathedrals to show the flame, to show this flame in symbolism of a spirit in its aspirations to reach for God and to the heavens, to reach to the heavens. These spires do not start from the ground, but they rest on the top of the rectangular. They rest on the top of the rectangular towers, which matches to the quadrangular shape section of the apron. This part of the apron is meant to represent matter, the world of materialism, something that can be measured and weighed by the senses of man. Therefore, it is something with form, in which case it is an allegory for the body of man. Like the triangle is an allegory for the spirit of man. The apron, if displayed with the flap extended, with the uppermost point pointing up, then what we have is a representation of the spirit of the candidate outside of his body and not within his body or his consciousness. The candidate has gone through a cleansing ceremony of initiation, but at this point the spirit does not know whether the body will continue with his ideals that it has said it was going to do at its entrance. The spirit is therefore tethered to the body with two cords. So you have your flap raised, you have your spirit, you have your body. The spirit is not sure if the body is going to maintain what it has purported to do, so it has to be tethered with these two cords, spirit to body. The spirit is tethered with the cords, keeping the spirit and the body together. And these cords take the place of the cable tow that you entered in on, reminding you to be cautious and not to rush forward as you work to bring union between your spirit and your body. Why does the spirit need to be tethered to the body? Although the body has said it will give up the want of monies or lures or passions of the world, in the ritual he has passed through, the spirit is not fully convinced yet that the body will stay the course, therefore needing to be tethered together as a symbolism of the union between spirit and body. The apron is made from the lambskin, and the lamb itself is considered a symbol of innocence, as is the color white. Then hence which we have the white color of wedding dresses, white color of baptism robes, etc. As a bond of friendship to our brothers, as we all share the same frailty of life. But the flap up on the apron makes the pentagram shape, and thus represents the 5 points of fellowship, which later on, our progression is another reminder of these 5 points of fellowship. So you always have your constant reminders with the five when the Enter the Printers always has these constant reminders showing them and making them aware to move with caution and to continue to reach that connection between spirit and body. And now in the Fellowcraft apron, I'm gonna present the images that I'm presenting on these Fellowcraft are from more so from the emulation system of the aprons. But this one you can see is a Fellowcraft apron. The flap is down, and this has 2 blue rosettes on it. This apron is made from white lambskin as well, with 2 sky blue rosettes on the square. The triangle flap is now pointing down to the center of the square. This is to signify that the candidate has made further progress in the science of Freemasonry, and his spirit, the triangular portion, has descended into his body, the square. Looking again at certain ancient schools of thought, one is in Hinduism. The downward triangle represents Vishnu, the preserver. It symbolizes rain, which preserves the fruitful earth. The downward downward triangle, I mean. Therefore, the downward pointing triangle in the square means the descent of the divine spirit into the matter, into the body. It thus represents the candidate has subdued his passion and material needs and is of material needs and is becoming in tune with his spirit. Although this bond is not fully complete, as the apron is still secured with to the wearer by a symbolic cable tow, represented by the 2 cords around the waist. In this degree, we learn that plenty is depicted as an ear of corn near a fall of water. This appears on the apron as the 2 rosettes, as they are the seeds planted in the previous degree. In the first degree, the seeds were planted and are now sprouting as a candidate understands his spiritual progress. As the sun and rain fertilize the seeds of the corn, so through wisdom and guidance, the candidate can now begin to perceive his spirit within his body. The color of the rosettes represents the color of the heavens. These flower on his body as emblems of the spirit's celestial origins. The entered apprentice degree is the foundation degree, preparing the candidate to begin his journey to enlightenment, planting the ideas and principles within him. The Fellowcraft degree shows the midpoint of him passing from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence on the path to enlightenment. The rosettes symbolize this as soul and body established in strength. And then note that the idea of the 2 pillars on the priestly pillar, the 2 pillars, one, the priestly pillar, I'll use the initials J, and the kingly pillar B, establishing this mine house to stand firm forever, or a Mason's internalized temple. And then we go to the Master Mason's apron. This apron has now developed another rosette. Again, these are diagrams from or images from emulation aprons. So this apron has been altered again, signifying the candidate's strengthening spiritual center. Not only has one has a third rosette right in the center of the triangle, but the three rosettes make a triangle, showing that the spirit of this man firmly within the body in a balanced union with the three rosettes in the triangle form. The apron now contains metallic substances. Even though in previous degrees we had denounced them, ensuring none was about our person, we were completely destitute. But it should be pointed out that silver in ancient times symbolized the soul, and gold refers to the spirit. The cord has been replaced with a sky blue ribbon held together by a silver serpent, which in itself is a symbol that represents divine wisdom in the ancient world. The silver tassels that you see on the apron as white light is made up of 7 waveforms. You know, this is represented by showing the silver tassels is representing light that comes from above, emulating the candidate's intelligence. It is not, you know, surprising that the 7 tassels representing light, as white light is made up of 7 waveforms of the electromagnetic spectrum. And if you notice that they have, I don't know if you can see it well, but they have the 7 on the ends. There's 7 like little balls on the ends of the tassels. These are attached. These are all attached to the blue sashes that are vertical, and heaven's blue and heavenly light shining in the middle of the apron. You know, you have your light and then the blue representing the heavenly light. The newly made Master Mason has gone through a figurative death and come out of it resurrected as a new being. The perfect initiate has mastered his lower nature and has become a perfect man. He is no longer ruled by materialistic views or wants, but now focuses on more spiritual, the more spiritual plane. And we have some additions to these aprons. I mean, some of these aprons, they went into like the past master's apron. It would be of a different design. I mean, and even in mainstream masonry, I noticed that there are still brothers in my lodge that wear these aprons from the emulation degrees, but a lot of the brothers they get the letter G or something like that on there, or they'll have some other form of symbolism on their aprons, or some will just go with the plain white aprons. But I've also noticed that the uniformity as in some lodges is starting to pick up, where a lot of brothers are wearing the same apron in lodge. I don't know what real significance that has with anything, but I mean, I think it's better if the brothers have their different apron, or there's the same aprons. It doesn't really make a difference. But some people have a preference where they rather have the uniformity of everyone using or wearing the same aprons. But I really don't have a concern about that. But basically, and to conclude, so we can get into like a little more conversation on them. I think basically the apron is a perfect symbol showing the unity of the soul to the body, of man. I think it's the perfect symbolism representing that with the trifold top and the quadrangular bottom representing man. I think the symbolism is perfect for it, as a lot of the symbolism in Masonry. It all comes together when you really look at it. So I do hope this gave some light, shed some light on some of the symbolism of the apron. There's always more symbolism that you can dig into. So I did leave a copy of some of the reference materials that I used for this presentation, and hopefully you can get into it and find more, because there's definitely more symbolism that goes on with the apron and with the degrees and stuff like that, and I think we'll be getting more into that as we go. But I'd like to end it now and open up for any comments or questions on anything.
Okay.
Brothers?
Peace and greetings to these brothers.
Peace, brother.
Yeah, so I was taking notes on the whole lecture. So there's a couple of points that I want to add on there.
Absolutely.
So, in my opinion, like with the well, not in my opinion, I think like a good way to summarize the symbolism of the apron is that, like, the apron, as I understand it, is symbolic of oneself, which you touched upon pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to highlight, like, this apron represents us. As you mentioned, you talked about I like to simplify it though, like in sacred geometry, the square portion is simply emblematic of that which is physical.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Because the square, the geometric square is associated with the physical things, the earth.
Right.
Earth appears to be flat. Whereas the triangular portion, like you mentioned a lot of, you broke down a lot of the symbolism of the triangle. Basically, in short, like saying that it represents the spirit. Now, how I understand it, you see how you see in
Trinities, yeah.
ancient Indian religion and the Trinity and traditional Christian religion. And my understanding of the mysteries, like you see how we have these semantics of soul, spirit, and so on and so forth. I like to look at it as the soul is God, right? The supreme architect.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Masonry, we'll hear the term a lot of times, the immortal part of a man, right?
Mm.
I don't look at it as a spirit or nothing like this, but simply that everything has the essential same self, which is God. I would say the Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I look at the universe, according to the ancient mysteries, the universe itself, which is everything, that's what universe means.
Right.
It's a trinity. There's always the active, passive, and neutral aspects, always.
Right.
So,
yes, sir.
With the reason I wanted to highlight that the apron is symbolic of the self is because you mentioned the lamb symbolism a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I've seen in Masonry that, if this is my opinion, like in my jurisdiction, we use actual lambskin. We don't use cloth. We don't use linen, nothing like that. It's mandatory that the apron has to be lambskin.
Right.
Because we feel it takes away from the symbolism,
mm-hmm.
you know, if we use something else. So I think an important note about the lamb is that when we remember how I just mentioned that the apron is symbolic of oneself, there's the spiritual aspect, the triangle, the physical aspect, the square.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Masonry, we have a lot of Gnosticism involved, or Kabbalah.
Right.
You know, the esoteric or secret tradition of the Judaic traditions. So, in the Bible, the lamb is symbolic of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few points I wanted to mention. Like in John 1, it's John 1 verse 29. It has the character John the Baptist referring to Jesus as the lamb.
Mm-hmm.
He says, look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, right?
Right.
So I think that's very important because, to my understanding, the 3 degrees of Masonry all throughout are hinting at us that Christ is emblematic of our true selves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the lambskin apron being made of lamb, I believe signifies that it's an allusion to that.
Mm-hmm.
That you are the lamb, you are the Christ. But Masonry's hinting it at you, right?
Right. Like a pointer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing is, as far as the whole lamb symbolism, like in astrology, without going too deep, in astrology, the lamb is associated with the sign of Aries, right? Which is the ram.
Right.
Now, a lot of people a lot of people don't study nature and things like that. As Masons, we should study creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things are suggested to us in the craft. So a lamb could be either a baby ram or a baby sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ram is just a male sheep.
Mm-hmm.
A female sheep, you call a female sheep a ewe, technically. But these are not different species, is the point that I'm making. Like a ram is just a male sheep, and a baby sheep is a lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at astrology, which is important because astronomy is one of the 7 liberal arts, and astrology is ancient astronomy, basically.
Right.
When the sun enters the sign of Aries, the ram, which again is associated with the lamb, it brings springtime. This is when the earth symbolically comes back to life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's like a symbol of resurrection.
True.
My opinion, but this is just my opinion also, like, because you were showing the emulation the emulation aprons.
Aprons, right.
And usually in America, we there's a difference in how that fellowcraft apron is worn.
Yeah.
As to how we do it. So I wanted to touch upon that a little bit too.
Right. I should have touched on that because I didn't touch on the lifting of the corner you know, of the Fellowcraft apron.
Yeah.
Also, you know.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things. But in short, as far as the whole lamb symbology, I take that to mean that. There's a couple of other things like in a lot of the forms of the Enter the Apprentice initiation ritual, we're told that the lambskin apron, not only that it's an emblem of innocence, etc., but that it's more ancient than the golden fleece or Roman eagle.
Right.
And I take that to refer to the antiquity, for lack of a better term, of oneself, you know, or one's true self, which is God, meaning that we're ancient and immortal, rather. So I think there's a little clue there.
Yeah, true.
And then there was another verse that came to my mind from the Bible dealing with, what was it, the whole thing with the lamb representing Jesus, right?
Right.
Because there's a verse where the character Paul, I want to say it's Paul. It's in the New Testament. You know, past the Gospels. I can't remember off top what the passage is, but I'll make a note of it later on. But he says, clothe yourselves with Christ.
Okay.
You know, or that
Right.
he's clothed himself with Christ.
Right.
Clothe yourselves with Christ.
Right.
Which is to symbolize the mystery of the Christ in you. The Bible mentions that too, right? The mystery is the Christ in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I believe Masonry is hinting that at us as far as with the apron, the apron being symbolic of ourselves. You talked about how to flap up, the triangular flap being up.
Yes.
I think that's originally how the apron. My belief, as far as my memory serves me, is that the form of the apron was always traditionally supposed to be a square and a triangle.
Right.
Now, I've seen those old-fashioned ones, you know, like from like French Masonic Lodge archives and American Masonic Lodge archives that have the circular flap.
Right.
And I always found that to be a disfigurement based on a lack of understanding of what the apron is supposed to symbolize. But I also looked at the possibility that, you know, that a semicircle is 180 degrees, and a triangle is also 180 degrees, geometrically.
Right.
Any triangle is 180 degrees, and that semicircular flap would also be equal to 180 degrees. But I still think it disfigures the symbolism, in my opinion. But, so when you talk about the flap up,
right,
in line with what you said, I've always taken that to mean that the Enter the Apprentice signifies the physical man, so to speak. The man who doesn't have self-realization, or the man who doesn't know himself to be one with God yet.
Right.
So,
and the flaps
and I say that because there are other elements in the Enter the Apprentice work that correlates to that, like the way that the three great lights are situated upon the altar. The square covers the compass. That's giving us insight into what the light of the Enter the Apprentice degree is on a spiritual level. So the Enter the Apprentice is still the physical man, so to speak, learning to become spiritual or spiritualized.
Yeah.
So in line with what you said with the flap being up, I take that as seeing one who is an Enter the Apprentice spiritually, not titular in a titular way, but in real life, that you will know that man by his concept, you know, by the way he sees or perceives God, spirituality, etc. Because for him, the Trinity so to speak, or God is above somewhere, right?
Right.
And I think it's in line with what you said, though, but I think that's what's signified by the triangular flat being up.
Yeah, because I do see that, because you know, especially with the flat being up, and the two sides having to be tethered together by the cord, you know, like symbolizing like he's not fully aware yet of his spirit, you know.
Yeah, and I think this is what I said with like the semantics, right? And I don't think they're bad semantics, but if I speak to a man that I know, or a woman I know who's not not what we would call enlightened in the mysteries,
right?
Their concept of God is going to be, oh, God is above. You could tell by how they refer to God.
Right.
Point up in the sky, or God is out there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, God is above us. So, with this is why I said earlier, like with the semantics of soul and spirit, to my understanding, like my own mystical experience, God is the self, or God is the soul.
Yeah.
So it's like for this man, God is outside of himself. Whereas, as you said later, in the fellow craft, in the way that the fellow craft wears the badge, which symbolizes himself, now the so-called spiritual part, it descends into the body. Symbolically, to say that the fellow craft, a spiritual fellow craft, is the man who realizes he is God.
Yeah.
God is within him. It's not somewhere. God is not somewhere
outside of himself. Outside of himself.
So, now there's another thing. Oh yeah, and then when you talk about the 5 points that are highlighted in the way that the Entered Apprentice wears the apron, you did mention the 5 physical senses.
Yes.
And I agree with that because, as I said, the Entered Apprentice, to my understanding, on a spiritual level, is the physical man. This is the man of the 5 senses.
Yeah.
The 6th sense, which we could call the 6th sense the third eye, whatever we want to call it. That's not operative in Entered Apprentice Mason on a spiritual level. I'm talking about.
Right.
So
another thing indicating the separation.
There's one more thing, and this is what Brother Jay was talking about before, but he was just using non-vulgar language to say it, right? All right. If we notice, you see how when every jurisdiction doesn't use this wordplay, but a lot do. We're told that. All right, we wear. Of course, this is mythological, but we're told that we wear that the Entered Apprentice wears the apron with the flap up because this is how the EAs at the building of King Solomon's temple wore it, right?
Right.
And that they wore it this way to protect them from staining themselves with untempered mortar, right?
Right.
Now, I could say this from there was once upon a time that I was taking an apprenticeship for, masonry, literal masonry.
Right. Operative. Yeah.
And I've never ever seen Masons wear aprons. I've never seen it.
Never.
I've never seen it. And then I would look at like old images.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it there, like on cathedrals, sometimes on stained glass windows, you may have depictions of stonemasons working and stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, I've seen chefs wear aprons and stuff like that, or painters and things like that, to protect their clothes. But I've just never seen it with stonemasons or brick masons or nothing like this.
Right.
So, I'm pretty sure that tradition or we get this from the stonemasons is nonsense, right? So I said that to say, when that saying that the builders wore the aprons to protect them from staining themselves with untempered mortar, that's cryptic. I say that because that term is used in the Bible too, untempered mortar.
Okay.
It's used in a symbolic way for certain. Where like in the Bible you'll see the character God saying, basically frowning upon individuals who build structures with untempered mortar.
Okay.
And of course, untempered mortar is just cement that's not ready.
Right.
It's cement it's not good cement. It's not a good cement mixture.
Okay.
So, of course, in masonry, we summarize cement or mortar as being emblematic of brotherly love. That's how we simplify it. And I agree with that even on a mystical level.
Yeah,
because
I can see it.
It's a symbol of unity, right?
Right.
So, untempered mortar is going to represent anything that's opposed to that principle of universal love.
Right.
Or that spirit of oneness, right? Or the mystic tie, we call it. So, since the apron, I say that to say, because Brother Jay mentioned this, but like I said, he used non-vulgar language earlier.
Right.
We wear the apron over our genitals, and that has significance in Masonry, to my understanding, because if we look at the first degree, we're told that we come here to learn to subdue our passions.
Yeah.
For the purpose of improving ourselves. It's kind of weak language, but we could stretch the meaning of improving ourselves to the idea of spiritual evolution, or spiritual growth.
Right.
But subduing our passions, that's a serious thing. So if we look at the passions, like oftentimes in lives, even if we do esoteric work, oftentimes we overlook like ethics or morality or ethics, self-mastery as a practical thing. We may talk about it here and there, but I don't think it's often that we touch upon like the virtues and how do we achieve self-mastery? How do we achieve self-control? What are these passions that we have to subdue?
There it is.
So, like, we may have basic ones we could point out, like anger,
Right.
Or, jealousy, things like that. But on a practical level, one of the strongest passions of man, without doubt, this is a biological principle or it's a scientific principle, is the sex drive. For sure.
Yeah.
Appetite is another one. It's up there, but the sex drive is certainly,
I think that's a key one.
For sure.
Right.
And there are plenty of allusions to this in the Bible, like the great red dragon in the book of Revelation, stuff like this. The libido, right? The sex drive. So I think that the apron being worn over the genitals is definitely an allusion to the fact that we must learn to subdue the libido or control it to gain self-mastery. And here's a verse. This is a passage in the Bible.
Right.
And in our jurisdiction, it's in the ritual.
Okay.
When at the part where the apron is being presented. It's Matthew. It's Matthew chapter 19, verse 11. But anyway, in that passage, the character Jesus says, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. Oh, it's verse 11 and verse 12.
Okay.
And verse 12 says, for there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are those who choose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept it. So, in the context of that, the character Jesus, because the disciples asked him about that, should we be with women and so on and so forth. So, and a eunuch is, of course, a man who has been castrated. or he had his balls cut off.
Right.
So, in order to make him docile, in a literal sense.
Temper his
So
passion.
so in that passage, the character Jesus says they're eunuchs who are literally eunuchs, in other words.
Right. Right.
He says, and then there are those who live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of God. In other words, that they are symbolically eunuchs in order to experience. Last point, and I apologize for taking up so much time, but
oh no, this is good, bro.
There was one last point, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if brothers are familiar with like the Preston form of the ritual from England, which is basically in America it's similar to what we call the web work, mostly what we use in America, in American lodges.
Mm-hmm.
It's different from the emulation work, but once upon a time, the premier Grand Lodge, they used the Preston work, to my understanding.
Okay.
Before they changed it, because you mentioned earlier, like the union of the ancient Grand Lodge and the Grand Lodge of England in 1813, and
yes,
the development of the aprons, etc. Anyway, even in the emulation ritual, and in some, like in the web work, like it's in how Thomas Smith Webb drafted out the ritual work, but not every Grand Lodge uses it verbatim how he drafted it,
Right.
But anyway, it's definitely in the emulation ritual of the first degree. And the part that explains the tracing board for the first degree, and it says in the beginning of the explanation of the tracing board in the emulation ritual, it says the usages and customs among Freemasons have ever borne a near affinity to those of the ancient Egyptians. Their philosophers, unwilling to expose their mysteries to vulgar eyes, concealed their particular tenets and principles and philosophy under hieroglyphical figures, and expressed their notions of government by signs and symbols which were communicated to their priests or magi alone, who were bound by oath to never reveal them. Right?
Now that's in Preston. Was that in Preston, brother?
Yeah, that's in that, and also in Thomas Smith Webb's. Like if you have the Thomas Smith Webb monitor, which is of course it doesn't mention any of the grips or signs or anything like that, because it's a legal Masonic monitor.
Monitor, right?
But the mainstream Grand Lodges in America, their ritual work is based off of Thomas Smith Webb's work, which in turn is based off of Preston's work from England. So anyway, that shows up there in the first degree. Or you can even go online and get the Thomas Smith Webb Freemasons monitor in PDF. It'll pop up.
Okay, yeah.
And it'll be in the first degree section. But in the United Grand Lodge of England and their blue lodges, it's in the first degree, like that's there.
Right.
It's part of what has to be said in their form of the ritual. So that's significant because it's highlighting the connection between Freemasonry and the ancient Egyptian mysteries. Right?
Right.
As it says, the usages and customs among Freemasons have ever borne a near affinity to those of the ancient Egyptians.
Yeah.
So
I see it.
If we keep that in mind, if we look at the Masonic apron as well as the regalia of the primary officers at the lodge, as well as the subordinate officers. You see that in ancient Egypt, all of the Egyptians wore what they call skenties, which is aprons, right?
Yeah.
We could say loincloths, like some brothers want to, like some guys when they're stubborn, they miss the point of what an illusion is. Like in Masonry, when we say we're alluding to things, it's an indirect hint.
Right, right.
It's not meant to be so obvious,
Yeah,
you know.
like
But
innuendo, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
so in ancient Egyptian society, the men wore skin tees, which are long, aprons basically.
Right, right.
And then when it came to the pharaohs and the images of the gods, the male gods,
Mm.
they wore these aprons, and also the gods and the pharaohs in ancient Egyptian iconography, you see that they wore collars.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then you'll see it in a lot of grand lodges, the grand lodge officers wearing cuffs in addition to.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is an allusion to the regalia or attire of a god, an Egyptian god, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
No doubt. No doubt.
So I
No.
wanted to mention that too in regard to the apron, you know,
Yeah,
and
definitely, bro. That's good stuff, man.
its importance as a badge. But like I said, ultimately, I take heed to the fact that the apron is emblematic of oneself. Yeah,
Right.
go ahead. I just wanted to mention
True.
those points.
Yeah, true indeed. Brother Prince, did you have anything to follow?
I man, really coming in kind of late.
Right.
When I came in, it really was like you was right into it and right on it with some very valuable information, and I would say like some dot connecting information.
Thanks, man.
And then Brother Montanez, I appreciate you expounding on those other points.
Definitely.
One of the things that was covered, which was right when I came in, that eludes me is getting a better understanding what you were explaining in regards to the two chords. And then you also went into how on the Master Mason, I believe, if I'm saying that wrong, the Master Mason's apron, that those two chords are changed to that blue ribbon, and what that blue represents in regards to the rosettes, I believe.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's a way to, if one of those source materials that you posted previously would have that information in that I could go back and look into and kind of get a better understanding of it. If you could point me in that direction,
Sure.
at a later date or whenever you can, no rush.
Oh yeah.
But I definitely want to look further into that because for some reason that resonates with me in understanding that has never been pointed out to me.
Mm-hmm.
The way that is tied and the correspondence to the cable tow from that perspective.
Yeah.
So I would like a little more information on that or some sources on that if you can.
Oh yeah, definitely, brother. From I'll go through later after we complete, and I'll send you, along with those reference materials, I'll send you a specific book in there that
Awesome.
that would
that.
correspond with that a little more, and I'm sure brother Madge has some other stuff too with that in it, but definitely I'll send that over to you, man, because it was a deep concept as far as the cord being changed to the ribbon, to the blue ribbon, and then being attached with the silver serpent,
Okay.
and the symbolism to it, Madge, did you have anything to add onto that portion of it?
Yeah, like with those aprons you show, what you mentioned early in the presentation, like those are emulation ritual aprons.
Yes.
Okay.
So meaning that's the standard ritual that's used by the United Grand Lodge of England, like their daughter lodges. So like we wouldn't see, even though Brother Kevin said that there's some brothers who use those aprons in his jurisdiction.
Okay.
Right.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, you definitely won't see it. You won't see it much in the U.S. In particular, there's just like certain lodges that have adapted the emulation rituals to their lodge as specific. So they stay strict on their emulation rituals, and I I figured with the talk it would help to be able to show that, even though we don't really use it that much or see it that much over here, but it kind of allows me to be able to explain a little more about the symbolism of the aprons and like the idea that they had in mind, you know.
Yeah, but that makes perfect sense to me. I know I'm a younger Mason than both of you guys, but you know, you have a question and seeing, especially as you both are able to, you know, knowledgeably expound on different things, those different ties. Because my question would be, you know, as you look deeper into most things, it's like, okay, was that just lost over here in the West? Or was that esoteric or that hidden aspect of expounding on what that symbolically means just lost over here, that it wasn't able to be continued on, and brothers don't understand the language of symbolically understanding that, what that would impress upon the mind.
But here's the thing about it. This is interesting because like the brother explained, even though this is not going digressing or anything, but like with the United Grand Lodge of England, for example, like they've made public declarations already that there's nothing spiritual about Masonry. They'll let you write books on it if you're part of their jurisdiction, but they tend to make official declarations. And listen, we don't get into anything esoteric. We don't see nothing esoteric in Masonry.
Gotcha.
It is what the ritual presents. So, and this is why, like Brother Wilmhurst, who's renowned, even though he's dead now for a long time, but you know, he's one of the like gurus in their tradition, at least for the brothers that are into the esoteric work, because it was basically his life's work to say, like, listen, from the emulation ritual perspective, because like their ritual differs. Brother Prince, like it's similar to ours, but it's a lot. There are things there that are different, besides just the apron designs. So they don't, like, all they do is just the same thing you see in social club lodges here. Same thing, brother.
Gotcha.
So, but back to the apron thing, like with their standard work, like when the brother talked about the rosettes and the fellow craft apron, and like you notice they don't put the flap up. Like, I mean, not the flap up. They don't turn the corner up and tuck it
corner tuck, right? And we tuck the corner on the fellow craft,
right? And even the French lodges don't do what we do with putting a corner in. So I don't know where that tradition came from. If it's like strictly an American thing, because I know most overseas lodges, for sure, the fellow craft just wear their apron in the same way a master does. To signify, again, like esoterically, like, okay, God is within one sees God as within oneself now. However, I chalk that up to being that maybe since, you know, probably in the beginning over here there wasn't so much invested. This is my theory. I think that's since there wasn't so much invested in the lodges originally over here. What I mean is that lodges would be makeshift over here in the beginning. I mean, if one studies Masonic history, like there wasn't no elaborate Masonic halls or centers or nothing. I just think that the material investment wasn't there. So I think probably most brothers wore plain white aprons, you know, for every degree. And if a fellow craft's wearing his apron in the same way a master is, like with the emulation ritual, even though the aprons are being worn the same between fellow craft and master, the design lets you know that they of different degree.
Okay.
But if you had a plain white apron, you wouldn't be able to distinguish between the two. So I think that, like, the significance I take of the corner being tucked in is that it serves that practical purpose if everybody's wearing a plain white apron. And two, I think that since when you when you tuck the corner in, it cuts the square portion of the apron in half. When you do that. So I take that esoterically to signify like, okay, the fellow craft has the God realization within him, but it's as if the spirit, so to speak, is only halfway descended into him, or descended into half of his body, symbolically speaking.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, like with the emulation ritual, like with the cords, like we mentioned the cords, like in our jurisdiction, like we have, like the brother talked about the concept of uniformity of aprons, like we do have that.
Yeah.
And like our thing is, this is my opinion on that. Like for us in formal lodge, meaning in regular meetings and formal lodge meetings, in our jurisdiction, the apron has to stay plain white. It could be nothing on it, no designs, no images, nothing. But there's a symbolic reason for that, and that goes back to you're supposed to. Again, this is not a technical thing. It's just a symbolic type of thing. The apron represents the spotlessness of your soul, of yourself. And like I believe Brother Albert Pike had this opinion too back in the days. I could be wrong, but I think he was of the opinion of not decorating the aprons in formal work because it alters the symbolism or whatever of the spotless nature of the self.
Yeah, you're right.
So like in our jurisdiction, the apron stays plain white lambskin in all 3 degrees. And for us, like the cord, we don't have like any regulation as far as like a lot of our aprons be like a black ribbon or something like that, with a silver serpent on it, or sometimes it'll be cords, and it's like we don't have a regulation as far as whether it's a cord or a ribbon, you know.
Okay.
Right.
But we do have regulations as far as the measurements of what the apron is, like the exact measurements of how the apron is. Like all of our aprons are custom. It's regulation apron set to one size, 12 by 12, and then the triangular point of the apron touches the exact center of the square portion of the apron when the flap is down. Like that's our regulation. But so I say that to say I think what like the part about the cords, I could see somebody inserting a meaning into it, and I think it is a dope meaning. If like cords, like I have a lot of aprons, but like most of my aprons, as far as the plain regulation aprons that I have, most of them don't have cords. They have a ribbon. But I prefer the cords because they're easier to tie. For me, I hate the ribbon because you need somebody to help you in lodge, in my opinion, to put it on. But I think that I think it's good to attach that meaning in there if you want to. You know what I mean? Like, because the cable toe certainly, like you see how there's always a bullcrap meaning given to the cable toe by like a lot of interpreters of Masonic symbology, and it's really not satisfying. Like, but like, oh, the cable toe means this, or it just means our ties to the fraternity, and it's like, there's something deeper there.
Like very vague, right?
Yeah, but if we really look at the cable toe, like, I think brothers who interpret it along the lines of having something to do with the astral cord, as they call it,
and see that's what I think sticks out to me is when I think of those cords, I see that there has to be more of a correlation to that aspect of it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like in esoteric symbology, just dealing with meditation, because meditation is important, and esotericism, there's always that concept of the astral cord, and it's not to say it's an actual thing,
right?
But it's tied to the idea of there's a connection between the physical body and the consciousness.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's where the tethering comes in place.
Yeah,
you know?
I was reading into that, because the brother he was using that terminology of tethering earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I read into it that, like, okay, these cords are related to the cable toe, and I interpret the cable toe to be emblematic of the so-called astral cord.
Yeah.
Definitely for me.
Yeah.
But not necessarily as just a cord that helps you to astral project and all of this, but just as an aspect of the mind itself. Because even if we look at how the cable toe is tied, like that differs too in jurisdictions as to where the cable toe is tied, if there's even a cable toe placed upon the candidate in certain degrees or whatever.
Right.
But it's still, I always take that as an allusion to self-restraint as being part of preparation, like the power of the mind. Like we look at what cable toe means. It means a rope for pulling something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cable toe. And it's a tool. It's a tool, technically, if you think about it. Like in literal masonry, you use ropes to pull things. You use ropes to send things down to your fellow workers. You know, like if you're on the second story of a building and this brother's at the ground floor, you'll send a rope down to pass tools along and stuff like this.
Yep.
And I think that even when we say that term, if it's within the length of my cable toe, that to me represents the length, the so-called length of your knowledge. Like you can only do
what you know
based upon you can only do based upon your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think like the cable toe gets symbolically longer, so to speak. Symbolically as you progress in masonry. But it's all, like I said, it's also used as a symbol of self-restraint if you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless brothers are just saying, oh yeah, why is the candidate being prepared with this cable toe tied around him in a certain way? It has to have significance because ropes, like if we study Hinduism, that's deep too without digressing.
Yes, yeah.
The cord is a important symbol in Hinduism. Like if you ever study Hinduism, like the god Yama is like the god of death, and the cord. There's a few gods that hold the cord, and that cord is used as a lasso to like
capture.
And in Hinduism they use it as a symbol of the soul's power to restrain the animal nature, like to lasso an animal, to bind it, to subdue it.
Right. And that's like lassoing like the animal self, the animal mentality, that we all have.
Yeah.
So
so in masonry, like when I see that, the preparation as far as the cable toe goes, I always take it as a symbol of we're being taught to restrain certain things. Like in the EA degree, I take it in the preparation, learn how to restrain your speech. It's the first thing to learn to practice silence.
Yeah.
So the cable toe would be tied about the neck. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point you also have to learn how to express yourself. So then the cable toe gets removed. But it can be used to restrain the animal passion. It could also be used to extend help, stuff like this. So I always took it as a symbol of the astral cord, so to speak. And when you said that, like if we interpret the cord, use the term cords for the apron.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying like it's symbolic of like the astral cord holding together the spiritual aspect to the physical body, basically, right?
Yeah.
But the ribbon, I don't see what the hell the ribbon. Because like I said, like most of my aprons, my regulation aprons have ribbon, not cords. But I do have aprons with cords too.
Right.
But I never looked at any interpretation related to like the ribbon. I would be interested, like the brother said, to see like how mystic masons that work the emulation, right?
Yeah.
Would interpret that.
How they interpret that ribbon, replacement of the...
Because I've seen brothers from there, like, they'll go into, like, I don't recall seeing anybody talk about the rosettes and the fellowcraft apron, but
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
seen interpretations like dealing with the blue, because they use strictly azure blue, like sky blue
Sky blue, yeah.
for the subordinate lodges. And I've heard some of them go into how like their Grand Lodge officers they wear a dark blue.
Right, right.
Whereas here, a lot of the Grand Lodges, or most of them, I think, we use purple or whatever. But I've seen them go into that, like, oh, the deepening of the blue as you go up from Lodge to Grand Lodge status represents the deepening of your spirituality and things of this nature. But
right.
with the rosettes, I don't really remember. I remember you mentioned earlier something relating to the emblem that alludes to the fellowcraft password.
Oh, with the rosettes, in conjunction with the rosettes, or
Yeah,
because like the rosettes, I was saying it was emulating like the harvest or the seed being planted, and then the corn at the water by the waterfall. And then this, because of the flap being down now in the fellowcraft, is emulating the nurturing of the earth from the heavens, and within that, it's creating the growth of the sprouting of the rosettes.
Now I get you. Now I get you because all right. That part eluded me, but I get it, man.
Right.
You mentioned having the mysteries. We use the upside down triangle to represent water because it seeks the lowest level.
Yes.
And so that the soul descending symbolically into the body is related to that, and then that causes the sprouting.
The sprouting of the rosettes, related.
But I guess there's only two. Why? Probably because it alludes to just this. You have 2 degrees now. Something like that.
Yeah. The 2 alludes to the that you have progressed to the fellowcraft, so you're 2 degrees, and then after that, once you progress again, then you have the 3rd rosette placed in the center of the heavens, in the center of the triangle.
That's dope. Okay, now I got it. I get it.
Yeah.
That's a good explanation.
Yeah, and then about the rosettes, because you had touched on it a little, Madge, about the vagueness that is used in the emulation explanation sometimes. And I noticed that when we were talking about the fellowcraft with pulling the corner up, they get very vague on that, and I just on their explanation of the rosettes, instead of going into what we just talked about with the rosettes and the growth from the nurturing of the heavens.
Right.
They in their explanation, they explain the rosettes as being buttonholes, as being buttonholes. So as to when you do pull the corner up, you can button it instead of tucking it, and that just is like it. To me, it just completely makes no sense.
It's just nonsense.
Nonsense, yeah. So
it's like, why is the left breast made bare? To make sure you don't have a titty,
that
you're not a woman. That's stupid. So now I get what you're saying. So all right. So with I don't know if you have the insight on it at the moment, but so with the emulation apron or whatever, for the master mason.
Yes.
All right, you have the rosettes there, then you have the what are those, like tassels? Like I had an apron like that years ago when I was like a John D. Jones mason, but it wasn't the emulation style. It's like we used to have like these royal blue bordered aprons, and the all-seeing eye would be on the
Right.
the top of the
top
triangle.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then there would be like these little, I don't know what you call them, like flares or something, like
coming out of the eye, coming out from the eye, or
not from the eye, but like attached to like this attached to the triangular flap. So like when it's down,
right,
they like hang down. I don't know what you call that, but it looks like that's something like what's on the emulation Master Mason ritual.
Right. Were they like tassels on that?
That's what I want to call them. I want to call them tassels, but I don't know what's the technical.
Yeah, were they white or gray, like, or silver? Were they?
No, they were silvery, like
they were
like blue. They were like blue, but with like
silvery shimmers,
glittery type.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think you're right on it, because I do have something on that that I may have touched on it a little, but it's like the
I think the emulation apron you were showing in your lecture. I think that was there, right? Or,
yeah, that was on the those two
Master Mason.
On the Master Mason apron.
Yeah, like that. I wonder, like, what's supposed to be the significance?
Yeah, because let me touch on it real quick, because got it right here, brother.
And while you're looking at that, I would point out, just from my, just looking at it, I noticed, the fellow craft has two rosettes in the left and right corner. And as you stated in the on the emulation apron, when you go into the Master Mason, they have the three rosettes, right? So you have in the same corners under those, as I'm just gonna call them tassels, and then you have the one in the center. Now, also, when I noticed that you have the upside down triangle formed by the top of the apron and triangle, but you also have then, to me, which would be, I guess, equivalent to the square and compass.
Oh yeah, from the rosettes, right?
From the rosettes, where in the first degree you just have the what I would also equate that to is almost just the passive and active aspects, where in the third degree now you have the balance or the neutral aspect
in the center
of the rosette being placed there.
Yeah, in the center, and that's kind of like with your J and your B, and then you yourself come in the middle of those arches. You know what I'm saying? To balance the J and the B. I'm just not saying the word out, but you know what I'm saying. But
that's why I like what you said earlier, which caught my attention. You mentioned the priestly pillar and the kingly pillar.
Yes. Yeah.
And that letter J is actually a priest.
Yes. Yeah.
In the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Because I go deep into the Bible, but there's an important priest character that's his name, J.
Right.
And of course, B is a king, so to speak, in the Old Testament.
Yes. Yeah.
King Solomon's great grandfather. So, but I like how you use those terminologies, the kingly and the priestly pillars, because it represents the worldly and the spiritual. Like the two aspects of oneself.
Right. This was the one that I showed earlier.
Yeah.
That apron. And so, I think the one you have, Madge, I think it has these type of tassels, but they're probably blue with little silver shimmers in them, coming off of here, right?
The bordering. I think I still have one packed away. I'm pretty sure, but it's like royal. Everything's royal. There's no rosettes there. Everything's the same except instead of azure.
Yeah.
It's all royal blue, the trimming.
Oh, yeah.
No rosettes, and where those tassels are, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
It's royal blue, too, with some silvery glittering over the royal blue.
Yeah, see, that's
And then there's an eye instead of whatever that top rosette is.
Right up in here, right? Yeah. See, in this, this might explain a little more, is the one with the sky blue ribbon around it, with the additional rosette in the triangle flap. There are two vertical ribbons on the apron. with 7 metal tassels. These are actually metal tassels, but on some of the newer aprons now, it's just like a material type of thing, but it's simulating the metal tassels, and then they're attached to each of the vertical ribbons. The apron is no longer secured to the wearer with the white cord, the white string tied around them. But a sky blue ribbon that is clasped together by a metal serpent. The standard text in the blue book pass over the whole change by saying, like, to mark the further progress you have made in the science. That's just how they present it, and then they leave it like that. But at my mother lodge, they used a long explanation from the ritual book, which explains it, a little more. The 3 rosettes arranged in the triangular fashion with the point uppermost. The color of the silk, the triangle, and the 3 rosettes have special meanings. 2 vertical ribbons typify the import of the import, which has already been explained. Which has already been explained to you. To each of these ribbons, 7 tassels are attached, representing this will be representing the 7. I lost my word, brothers. The 7 arts and sciences, and also representing the 7 liberal arts and sciences, and then also representing the sevenfold man, sevenfold being, I should say. And this is to remind us that no lodge is perfect unless 7 brethren are present. So a lot of it has to do with reconnecting us with the understanding of that superior number 7, that number 7 and all of its meanings. In old days, they said it would refer to the 7 ages of man, who we were thought to be influenced by. But I mean, in their initial explanation in the emulation book, it just says this is to show that you progress in the science, and then they don't really elaborate more on that. But I mean,
there has to be something deeper though to those tassels. Something
7, yeah.
Maybe something astrological in nature. I don't know, but there has to be something to that.
Right. No, definitely, man. I mean, but it gave me a good understanding of guiding me through understanding the questions about some of the stuff on the apron, rather than just the little presentation lecture that you get with it.
Right.
It would be good if lodges could go deeper into it to really specify the certain types. But like you said, like on I believe a lot of the lodges have the aprons are similar to what we have here with the emulation aprons, but a lot of them took out the rosettes and they added in certain things, like I have an apron where they did that. This rosette is gone, but there's an eye there. And then the 2 rosettes are gone on the bottom, you know, and then there's maybe a
and
G,
plus,
you know.
yeah, plus they're usually not, they're not gonna be called like regulation aprons, but with the UGLE, that's, it's just they're just different. That's their standard.
Yeah,
It's a must.
Right.
It's a must for them, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, but nah, the way you broke it down, like with the rosettes and all of that, now that you explained it again, like, oh yeah, that's pretty deep. It's just the tassel thing got me now. Not that I bust my brain with it, because
but it's something to
we
look
don't wear
into,
that in our jurisdiction. But it still piques my interest a little bit. Like,
Yeah, because I still see it. I still see it from time to time with some of the older brothers with the tassels on there. And and you could be right. I mean, I have to look into it some more, but you could be right where, because it's two sides with seven tassels on it, So
yeah, I think it's
it could
good
be
to
more
leave certain things like mysterious. Like, I've seen work like, let's say, like with French Rite lodges or whatever. Like, you have some of them over here, whatever they consider unrecognized or whatever, but like they throw some esoteric stuff in the ritual. Sometimes it becomes a little too long-winded for my taste.
Right.
I think like a little hint here, a little hint there is fine. The same thing with like certain Egyptian Rite lodges. Like they get a little more esoteric in the Enter the Princess ritual. It's very similar, but they add some Osiris in there, some Isis, and sprinkle a little bit of, Egyptian stuff or whatever. But
which is deep.
As long as it's not like you see, like with the the Scottish Rite craft rituals or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When I started studying those, even though I know like in Louisiana they have them as far as the mainstream only. Oh no, I think in New York they have one too in the mainstream. A craft lodge that they let work as the Scottish Rite craft rituals. But when I read through them, I'm like, damn, man, Pike. I like Pike as a philosopher, but as a ritualist, like, hell, he's too long-winded for my taste. Like,
yeah.
This would take like 10 hours. You're going all the way in on stuff that
he goes in on.
As far as like how you wrote rituals out, and it's like, man, your normal guy, even if he's esoterically inclined, he's not gonna know about the intricacies of Roman history and Greek history and Greek philosophy. So he's real long-winded. So I'm like, I see where he's going, but as far as ritual, I'm talking about.
Right.
Because he rewrote all of the Scottish Rite rituals.
Yeah.
Like the original rituals, I have them. They suck, bro. Like, not all of them, but they kind of suck. Like, they just poorly done. You could tell it was they're good esoterically. Like, I understand Kabbalah, but just like as far as like a ritualistic type of thing,
right?
I see why Pike like put him in shape, but but he's long, like, and even his stuff, I guess the Southern jurisdiction had to like, smooth out a little bit, because he's with ritual stuff. Pike is like super long-winded, bro. Like,
yeah.
And the point I'm making is that I don't think ritual has to explain everything. I think as long as brothers do what we're doing,
right?
Like how you broke the rosette thing, man. I'm like, oh, that's dope. Even though it's there, I think we have enough keys, oftentimes. So we just need help from certain brothers to help connect the dots.
Yeah. So, different viewpoints always helps, and like you said, I think you're right. It's good, like with ritual, to have just some small touches on certain things that later on in the class or in a workshop or something, it could be touched on, or to elaborate on it and stuff like that. I think that's true. I agree with that.
Yeah, like when you compare the emulation fellowcraft apron to the emblem dealing with the FC password, that was dope. That's a nice correlation. I would have never looked at it like that, but
yeah,
it makes perfect sense because like that's one thing the UGLE retains with that. Like they actually have a waterfall
right
next to the ear of wheat.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times in this country, you see like a stream, and it's like, that's not really what the symbol's intending, you know? Like, like
yeah.
it's the waterfall is it's an important it's an important aspect of the
landmark,
that symbology of what
yeah,
of what you explain with the
yes, yeah, that
or the rain when you use
rain.
that, like rain falling from heaven. That was dope.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Yes, brother, definitely, man.
And then when the brother pointed out in the rosettes in the emulation apron, I was like, oh yeah, that is true. You have another triangle there.
Yeah.
So you got Solomon seal, you know.
Yeah, and you got your it's beautiful how it all corresponds though. To the self. Is that in the bottom line it's all these symbols are like pointers pointing to yourself when you really look at it, and it's a it's all a help. I mean, like from the apron going around the groin area, you know what I mean? The rosettes, the 2 rosettes, then 3 rosettes, the cords.
You know what I've written? Now that you mentioned the tassels, right? This is what I think is the explanation I heard for that. This is what but it's nonsense in my opinion. I don't think it's correct, but because I'm thinking like with the couple of so aprons that I do have that have cords, like I'll tie them to the front, and I'll tuck them. I don't just leave the cords hanging from the back. It's not comfortable to me. I mean, it's easier for me to tie by tying it to the front,
right,
and tucking in the cords, like so tucking them in through the front, But now that I'm thinking about this tassel thing, I think that the explanation I heard, which I think is nonsense, is that it was to refer back to brothers having the cords hanging off when they would tie the aprons, the cords to the front. Some brothers would just tie it to the back or whatever.
Right, and then just leave it hanging.
Yeah, which I don't like because I hate sloppy looking aprons, bro. That pisses me off in lodge.
Yeah.
Like, I hate brothers that do that, bro.
Yeah.
Or I hate brothers who wear their aprons over their stomachs like retards. No disrespect, but like, so I always found like tying the cords to the front. It gets a better snug fit on your apron and then tucking them in. But like I said, I think I've heard the explanation that those tassels come from those cords being, if you tie to the front, hanging over or something like that.
Really?
And they beautified it. But I think that's bull crap. I don't go for that. It got to be something, especially like you said, when there's 7 in number, as far as tassels.
Yeah.
And like even in the Old Testament, when I look at stuff like the breastplate of the priest and stuff like that, and like Hebrew mythology and the Bible.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I like going into that because the wordplay is, once a person has the keys of like spiritual astrology and things like that,
you can relate them.
Like I was speaking with brothers on, there's some passage in the Old Testament that says that the names of the 12 tribes of Israel were written upon 2 stones, And I get, like, I read into that easy. That's phallic, the testicles. The testicles carry the DNA of the generations to come. Like the names of all of your descendants are written on your 2 bulls, bro. But the Bible says it in a cryptic way,
Yeah. I can
Because
see
you know,
that.
like in regular English, not over here, but in the UK, like stones means balls to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. There's something to those tassels, man. Something to it.
I think you're right. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking too, like astrology wise, you know, because in ancient times, not 100%, but I think it was I think they could only identify 7 planets, you
Yeah.
know, as opposed to the 9. So I do think
Right.
it kind of relates to astrology on that on from one side to the other side, because
Mm-hmm.
you remember the two towers, you know, J and B
Mm-hmm.
also have the globe, the celestial and terrestrial globe on top,
Mm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
with those tassels, I'm thinking on one side you have your manly side, your human side, and then on the other side you have your spiritual or terrestrial side, which is representing the 7 planets that were then identified at that time. You know,
Yeah, because
um,
like
I'm really
like
thinking you're right.
I was just reading a lecture by this brother from England who I like. He gets deep into the esoteric stuff, and you know how like they have tracing boards. Their tracing boards are a little different or whatever. Like they have standard tracing boards that they in the emulation work
Yeah,
that they have to use. It's like mandatory. It has to be this particular image here or whatever. Um, but the brother was explaining with like the 7 stars on their E8 trestle board or tracing board.
yeah,
He was explaining how, and I understand this because I study astrology and astronomy, but he explained how, like you were just saying with the 7 planets, like these weren't planets, but the term planet signified a wanderer.
okay,
These are objects, or these are objects like stars that move, and that you could see them moving,
right,
right?
right,
Um, so that's what the term planet originally signified, like to the ancients, and of course, like the sun was considered one of the 7 planets.
right.
So was the moon. And then of course you have Venus, Mercury, Mars,
Mars,
etc.
yeah,
But they were like start to them, to the naked eye or to the casual whatever student of astrology back then. It's like, okay, these are 7 stars that move around.
right,
So the brother, as far as the tracing board dealing with the E8 emulation work, he was comparing those 7 stars on the trestle board to the 7 planets, right?
mm-hmm.
Even though the sun is still there as a separate symbol, and so is the moon. But I
Mm-hmm.
get where he was going with it,
I can see that.
and he was
Yeah.
further comparing the 7 planets on the tracing board to the emotional nature
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of a man. You know, like how our emotions they're sporadic. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
they they move. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they can be
Motion.
unpredictable and things like that. So we have to
Yeah. In
we have to
motion.
just learn to let them, pass. So
Let
to
them
speak,
pass.
and not
Yeah.
get caught up in them, so as to master ourselves and whatnot.
That's being, and that's working towards being a true master. Mastering
Mm-hmm.
those how do they say it? One brother said feelings that move, emotions in feelings in motion, so
Right.
and being able to control that by letting it pass, allowing it to pass. And actually, a lot of that relates to, again, subduing the passions,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's like there could be the simple ones of, getting mad or, letting your anger pass, uh, jealousies, letting your jealousy pass, you know what I mean? And but then it goes deeper where, you get into the sex drive, and being
Right.
able to master that, and in that alone, I feel that's being a true master, you know, or working towards true mastership, you know.
And especially like when we get deeper into let's say like Kabbalah, because you'll have brothers who, like, for me, it's not difficult to learn the Hebrew alphabet, bro. Not to me.
Right.
Learning it learning it fluently, as being able to speak it as a spoken language and stuff, I don't think that's necessary, but
yeah, and that
like to know how to read like Hebrew words and things like that. It's definitely important in Kabbalah.
Yeah,
but sometimes, like, to get into the deeper stuff, like dealing with like the libido, because in Kabbalistic teachings, like in the Bible, like that term untempered mortar, it's used in Ezekiel. It's used in a few books, because you know there's a lot of Masonic wordplay in the Bible, no doubt about it.
Yes.
So when that term is used there, long story short, like in the Kabbalah, they'll take the word for untempered mortar that's being used, right? And there's a couple of different words used for that.
Right.
But long story short, when they do, gematria, when they
the number system,
use the corresponding words and stuff. In the Kabbalah, they take untempered mortar to be like wasted semen. That's what they take it to be. Which is like, or in the book of Genesis, when they deal with the Tower of Babel, they call it slime. Like they use slime and brick to build this tower. That's all plays on words.
Right.
So the Kabbalists are good with that.
Yeah.
It's like in Masonry, when we have two bulls and a cane, it always blows my mind that certain individuals, their phallic references go over their heads. Like, like you don't know how important phallic symbolism was to the ancient.
It was very important.
Ancient mystery schools and religions. I mean, it seems vulgar to like modern religious people.
But it's there, you know.
Yeah, to the ancient religious people, the phallic symbolism of the mysteries, they weren't bothered by it whatsoever. Like,
no, because that was real for them. That was real. You know.
Yeah, so the creative force. But like I said, like in Masonry, it blows my mind sometimes. Like with the exoteric inclined individuals, like I'll be like, that goes over your head. That two balls in a cane, bro. Like that's going over your head. Like, you're literally taking that to mean two balls in a cane. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a funny ass play on words if you think about it. Like,
and even the image of it, in most cases they got, you know what I'm saying, and they got the cane right in the middle, and there's still brothers that think that means golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, where do you get that from? And I don't know. It's like. You know how they have these tournaments and stuff. They do these like golf tournaments or something, and they use that as the symbol for the golf tournament. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny. Yeah,
it's kind of funny, man. But nobody took offense to it or anything. They didn't really. It went over their head. You know what it really means. And,
so that's why I was saying that with untempered mortar, like. I definitely have some articles on it, like Kabbalistic ones. I want to tie in with Masonry, where they go into the gematria of it, and
I want to check that out because the untempered mortar, that's deep.
Yeah, I'll send it to you because it's like, even if, like I said, if you look at it like, we wear the apron to protect ourselves from, we wear it to not stain ourselves with untempered mortar, and we wear the apron over the genitals. If you look at it like. The untempered mortar definitely in the Bible esoterically has a reference to the wasted semen, or the concept of lust. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we don't want to stain ourselves with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you Yeah, it gets, it gets deep like that. But a lot of times that's like, what do you call it? Uh, like looked over as far as like occult studies and esoteric studies. Just the whole practice of learning to subdue the passions.
Right.
So,
That's right.
Because it's a deep thing. The practices.
It is.
Like I said, I see in the ritual ceremonies, I see like we're giving these hints.
Yeah.
So like, to learn self-restraint. So there has to be actual, I mean, we could do as best as we could as far as like esoteric brothers with with the work. But
right.
But a lot of times too, it's like, if you have, like I said, if you have lodges that, and it's never going to happen in exoteric masonry because, again, the buildings are going to be lost, the properties are going to be lost. So you got to rush people through.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that way, but once the organization is in too deep, it's like
they got to keep going.
All right. Yeah. So it's like, who cares? So it's not like really practical, honestly speaking, unless a person had, vast experience in occult work or spiritual work. Like then I could see it, like how when Manly P. Hall switched into the mainstream later on in his life, and he already had vast, understanding and experience.
Yeah.
So with a person like that, it would be like, oh, he already understands the degrees anyway, for the most part. So there's no problem with moving him through,
right.
Even in one day.
Right.
He already knows the stuff anyway. What does it matter?
Yeah.
On the esoteric level as well. So to do that, and I could say with the esoteric lodges, it happens that sometimes you have, it's like you will have, I don't want to say unworthy, yeah, I'll say unworthy individuals, but not that they're ruffians per se, but they could get impatient, bro. It happens. Because in the esoteric lodges, there's none of that. Like 6 months for this degree, It all depends. There's a curriculum, but it also depends on your background as far as what you already know and your experience and,
right.
work that you may still need to do. But individuals will get impatient because they're like, oh, they'll know brothers from exoteric lodges like, this guy's a master mason. He became one in 6 months. How come I'm still taking
you find that
years? Like
you find that a lot.
Do
you find that a lot on with brothers in co-masonry?
Sometimes, but not a lot. And the reason sometimes, often enough, but it's not like a major problem.
Right.
And I think that has to do with the investigative committees just doing their job. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're doing good then.
Not being superficial.
Yeah.
With it, but also practicing due diligence.
Right.
Like if I'm on an investigative committee, I'm thorough. I think most brothers, at least in the esoteric lodges, do a good job, but I would just tend to be more thorough. Like I want to know things like, oh, are you studious? Like we have standard questions too, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
If one of those things that we typically ask is, are you studious? Like, are you a studious person? You like to read, you like to study.
Yeah.
If this person doesn't, he's typically not going to be a good fit. Just being honest. Because we still have an academic aspect.
Right. That has
esoteric masonry.
Yeah.
It's just not mystical only. There's an academic aspect too. So
absolutely.
If this person is like, yeah, I'm studious, because sometimes they'll just tell a white lie just to,
yeah,
try to get in.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. What?
Tell you what they think you want to hear.
Nah, I'll be like, listen, tell me 3 books you read in the past year. What were they? if they can't answer, you bullshitting me. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, come on now, you're not studious like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
As opposed to saying like, nah, you know, I haven't really read anything in the past year, but
Yeah.
over the past couple of years, I read this or that, and
I'm always open.
It's being thorough. So once you see that,
True.
and if you're transparent with these individuals,
Mm-hmm.
that's why with like John G. Jones Masonry, they have a lot of problems a lot of times. I'm not trying to bring this into the forum. I'm just using it as an example of like social club lodges.
Right. Right. No, I got you.
Yeah, they'll a lot of times it's like be upfront with a person. Like if a person is, if you're upfront with them about things, you're better off. Don't let them go there and it's like this guy really wants to join for recognition. Like in co-masonry, we make that clear as day. Like, listen, we have nothing to do with mainstream masonry. Nothing other than a broken lineage there. Outside of that, there's no recognition there. There's no.
Right.
So if that's what you're looking for,
it's not here.
Go over there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yup.
And sometimes, like with the social club lodges, like I said with John D. Jones, because it happened to me when I was younger, and I remember I went to the mainstream Grand Lodge headquarters on 23rd in Manhattan, and they were nice to me. You know what I mean? But I was a kid, bro. Not really a kid, but I was 18. I was too young.
Right.
I think they changed it now, but at that time you had to be 21 with them.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you have to be 21 years old to petition. You know, but at that time I'm 18, and a lot of the Masons that I knew were like black Masons, the majority that I know.
Right.
So I didn't know I knew about Prince Hall because I personally knew older guys who were black Masons.
Right.
But most of them were like Prince Hall or they were John G. Jones. But I just assumed everybody that was black was Prince Hall at that time. So I was like, hold on. It just so happened that I stumbled upon the mainstream Grand Lodge because I actually worked over there, like a black from their building. Right. So that's what it was. So I was like, you know what? It was at that time I started getting interested in masonry. So they were nice to me and stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, how do I petition or whatever? Yeah. And they were like, oh yeah, you do this. How old are you, by the way? Like I'm 18. They're like, no, you gotta come back when you're 21, man. Sorry to disappoint you. Like, what? Okay. They're like, nah, it's not personal. It's like, listen, you gotta be 21 over here. Right. So I was like, and then John G. Jones Masons, I knew, they were like, what? Who told you that? Because they have temples out here too. You know, some of them rent halls out and stuff like that, but they have their buildings and things like that. Right. So they're like, who told you that, man? You're 18, you good, you could join. I'm like, all right. Right. So, but the difference with me is like, I didn't care. Like, once I got involved in it, I never got caught up in those politics of like, oh, PHA guys and mainstream guys. Never. It didn't matter to me. I learned eventually. I'm like, oh, okay. This is some other Masonic organization, basically started by this expelled or a guy who left Prince Hall. And once I started really doing the research too, man, with the like politics of jurisdictions, that shit's, it doesn't sadden me, but I see through a lot of the bull crap, bro. I'm looking at it like
it makes you wish it wasn't that way, but it was so, you know.
I get why it's like that. Yeah. But, you know, I here and there I'll talk to a lot of Masons from various organizations and things like that. And I'll just be like, when those politics come in, I'll be like, damn, this guy here got expelled for some, and even in mainstream, like, damn, this guy didn't even do nothing wrong, really. They just turned on this guy. Right. They didn't steal money from the treasury or nothing like that. Oh shit, this is some real political stuff going on. Right. No, that's true. So that's true. It's like, oh shit, this is nuts right here. Or, you know, and even with PHA out here, I know a lot of the brothers that are PHA in New York City, a lot.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, but particularly the ones that like esoteric masonry.
Right, right.
So,
very true, bro.
You know that when we hang out, they'll be telling me certain things. I'm like, listen, man, what do you expect? They like, this is bullshit, man. I can't even get my certificate because I'm beefing with the worshipful master or something. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to tell you guys, like,
it is that way.
You have to, like, you don't get the great lesson of caution, bro. Like, that's basic.
Right.
You just think that lesson of caution is there in the first degree for no reason?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, listen, bro, these old, like, what did you think this was? That, like, this is, don't forget that that's a business, bro. Like, they got to get men in.
Yeah.
Got to pay, dues got to be paid.
Yep.
The lights got to stay on.
Lights got to stay on.
Most of these guys are Christians, bro, that believe in literal Christianity. What the hell made you think? And you're right. But I get it, though, because I kind of used to be like that a little bit when I was a John D. Jones Mason.
Yep.
But I didn't express it to everybody. I used to, like, speak to a couple of brothers who I knew that were esoterically inclined, and I would be like, nah, they keeping us in the dark with certain things, right? Like these higher up Masons, like, nah, I can't be. There's something else when you go higher, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I start seeing it a lot of times, like, what? No, what? I don't know. What are you talking about? Masonry ain't this, masonry ain't that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit. It just took it took me a while to get it
to really see.
Brain.
Yeah. Really sink in, right?
Like, hold on, man. What the hell was I thinking? So
like this is wild.
The Masons who organized Masonry didn't really do it to be a mystery school, but
that's what it becomes.
To preserve the mystery school teachings for those who could see it.
They will see it.
And and if they didn't do it that way, Masonry would have never grew.
Yeah.
Like, to the level of prestige it has, because the amount of time and effort it takes to really progress in the mysteries, it takes time and it takes dedication.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
That's why, like, even in esoteric Masons, esoteric Masonry, the question to come up, like, with new brothers or sisters sometimes, and they'll be like, but hold on, like, why is mainstream Masonry like that, or any type of exoteric Masonry, like, now to explain it to them, like, you see how long it takes you to progress through the degrees?
Yep.
You see what it takes? If you're really doing it as a mystery school, it would have never grown.
Right.
And two, it was dangerous back at those times. Like, you take it for granted that because in America we have the First Amendment, separation of church and state. People take that for granted.
Right.
No, study history.
Wasn't like that.
The United Kingdom was in the 1600s, before the Enlightenment period came in, and when the Enlightenment period was being brought about, there had to be a gradual separation of church and state. So when Masonry was operating under those conditions, you could see Kabbalah in it now. You could just study old rituals and study old catechism work from the 1600s or early 1700s, but it was a dangerous thing.
Right. Yeah.
If you were to just come out and be like, oh yeah, this is what we teach in here is similar to Gnosticism, you know, that the Christ is really you know what I mean? And
you couldn't come out like that, you know, like
so there's veils there, so once as I progressed and became more mature in my studies and things like that, and I'll study different forms of ritual, and I'll say, oh, okay, I see why this form of the ritual says, oh yeah, Hiram was raised, and then afterwards he was interred. So it makes it look like he wasn't raised from the dead. He was just lifted up in a certain position and then directly afterwards buried. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that veil was, I see why that veil is there.
Yeah. It's necessary, I think. You know?
Yeah, because then a person can't say, hey,
they're coming out like...
can't say, they're teaching that they are the Christ being resurrected themselves. No, we ain't saying that, because look, afterwards Hiram gets put right in the grave. He wasn't resurrected.
Right.
But it's like, so, those veils are there The same thing with like the UGLE nomenclature in their work, where they say, "Oh, you're given substitutes so that hopefully the future generations of Master Masons discover the genuine secrets."
Genuine secrets, yeah, absolutely,
So,
bro. Yeah.
So I've grown to understand that, and like I said, I'll explain it to so even like certain brothers that are PHA and mainstream, and they'll be like, "Damn," be like, they're like, because they have the same impression. They're like, "Damn, I gotta go to the Scottish right now because they lying to me, bro. I can't believe these fucking old men don't really know this. It can't be."
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going, and then they get there. They get to 32 real fast. Pretty much most of the mainstream brothers I know.
Yeah. They get there. They get there real fast, but it's like it's a business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but once that happens, that's when they come. A lot of times come back to me like, "Fuck, there's nothing even there," and I'm like, "Listen, there are certain brothers there. You just have to."
Yeah,
there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. Yeah, definitely.
You got to do your due diligence, bro. Try to find workshops, and things like that, and in due time. So yeah.